I'm Tennille.
And I'm Kelsey, and we're financial advisors from 𝐴𝐿𝑚𝑎𝑛 Partners True Wealth, bringing you thought-provoking conversations around you, your money and your life on the Wealth Experience podcast. So what if I said that the biggest thing holding you back financially isn't actually your income, your job or the economy, but what you believe about money? In today's episode, we're breaking down money myths that sound smart and feel safe, but could quite easily be costing you thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. So Tennille and I are together again in the studio. It has been a little while since we've been on one.
It has. It's felt like a bit of a sabbatical, really, but here we are.
We made it. So let's just get stuck straight in as we usually do, and in no particular order. The first money myth that we want to talk about is the idea that saving money to cash in the bank is more important than investing. So we do see this one quite often, and it's certainly more of a behavioural or emotional money habit, because saving money, which really means just accumulating cash in your bank account, that's what we're talking to here, feels really safe and predictable. It doesn't really go up and down in value. What you put in is what you get. It is as it says on the tin, and you pretty much get a guaranteed return, interest return of whatever the bank account is offering you. So there are instances, of course, to know when saving money to cash makes sense, such as building up your emergency fund or saving for a holiday that's coming up next year or whatever that may be. But the issue creeps in really when you continue to do this beyond what you need cash for and almost create this hoarding cash type of behaviour to the point of excess or obsession. And, that does happen sometimes, that people just feel comfortable and happy when they keep seeing the bank account going up and up and up and up.
Definitely. And I think we see it at times when we talk about, if I asked you today, what is a comfortable amount for you to have in your bank account? Like, what's your emergency funds? And people usually tell us whatever they've currently got in their bank account.
Yeah.
So if I asked them, 10 years ago, how much was that, they might have said, $10,000. That's my really comfort. And then they've built $100,000 over time and then gone, my comfort now is $100,000. Whatever I've currently got, that's usually a pretty good indicator of that creep, is that it just becomes more and more. And people are habitual that way, like you say. They pop it there. They know it's there. They've got the comfort from it, and they kind of go, yep. What I'm doing makes sense. I'm a creature of habit. I don't want to change that.
But it can take away from enjoying life as well. Because
Absolutely.
if you've got this obsession around just accumulating as much cash as possible, is that preventing you from actually doing the things that you want to do, that you can afford to do? I guess where it comes down to, you probably need a financial plan to work those things through. But I think there's an element of people prefer the certainty over the growth.
Yes.
Even if it's actually costing you long term, this is the core of the concept, right? In that it's a myth, because you lose value with inflation over time with having your money in cash.
Yeah. And people think, I'm going to put my money in stock markets and then boom, it's too risky. I'm gambling with it, right? And I guess, that's probably going to lead into one of those other myths that we have, which is that, investing is too risky, or it is gambling with my money. So if we think about what does that actually look like, people tend to remember those headlines. They remember those moments that stick in their etched in their brain. Stock market crashes, recessions, financial crisis. More recently, war, and all these kind of things that impact on in people's eyes shares and what happens with those shares. They don't see so much decades of long-term growth and reward that comes from putting your money into shares, and it's those negatives.
Of course
that really
not. That would
them.
Be boring news.
Exactly right. And so realistically, people do think, if I put my money in stocks, I put my money in shares, I could lose it all. And I think it's because we don't have that really good grounding on how that's supposed to work, how those investments work, what their purpose is, and when you should and when you shouldn't touch them, and how to make sure you are protected. But the reality is that not investing is often riskier long term, because exactly like you said, inflation is a real cost, and missing out on compounding growth means that I'm not getting that historical market growth over time, despite what we know happens in the short term, which is drops, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a shift in your mindset then, Tennille, to kind of come away from that myth of it's risky, it's gambling, I just need cash. It's tuning away from that and understanding then the core principles of, well, what does good investing look like? Because it is risky if you haven't got the right structure around your investments. So we spoke about this on a number of podcasts, but if you go, am I well diversified? Is it relatively low cost? Do I have the right asset allocation for what I need it for?
Absolutely.
And then give it the benefit of time.
Yes, exactly. And you're right in, those habits again, investing money to cash makes sense, to have that emergency at all times, to have that buffer. But habitually investing, $500 a month versus doing nothing is going to make a massive difference over, let's talk decades now. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're literally losing out on because you don't have any piece of that pie.
Mm-hmm. Which, when you think about that logically, you should be thinking that it's more risky to put your money in cash.
Correct.
But we naturally do the opposit.
Absolutely. And I think you're right, because it's that understanding that if I put my money in cash, I can earn 3%. Maybe that's what I can earn, and inflation runs at 3%. So it's a vehicle for a certain purpose, but if I know that shares can produce, 8%. When you weigh the numbers up side by side like that, it becomes easier to see the opportunity cost.
Absolutely. Okay, so 2 myths down. Myth number 3. This one should be quite a topical one because I feel like everybody likes to talk about houses, owning property.
Owning your own home, the good old Australian dream.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the myth is that to be financially successful, you have to have your own home. Yeah. And if you don't have your own home, something's going wrong for you. You're not wealthy, you're not successful.
Yes.
And you're not financially stable is the general consensus, right?
And this is different in different countries, isn't it, Kels? I mean, originally, I've always lived in Australia. So I'm very used to the idea that, everybody eventually owns their own home.
And probably very early on comparative to places like Europe, which is very much, so UK, Europe is very much a rental society. Some people aren't getting on the property ladder until they're in their 40s, even more so now.
And is the sentiment more normalised around that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I think everybody does strive to own their own home, but I think this is actually quite sad. You give up because it's so difficult.
Yes,
because the cost of property.
Absolutely, and I guess we're seeing more of that pinch these days.
I think so.
In current climate
in Australia
than what we have before in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's definitely this myth of if I'm renting, I'm stuck in this cycle and I'm falling behind in life. But there is another side to that, and this is why we're saying that it could be a bit of a myth because on the flip side, owning your own home, yes, you get on the property ladder, and yes, you're building equity. However, you're going to be paying interest on your home loan. Right? When if it's your home, that's not tax deductible, so it's kind of dead money in a way. Yeah. You're going to have maintenance costs, and depending on your property, that could be from not very much to the roof is falling in and the walls are falling down. So who knows? Taxes and just general ongoing costs to own your home, upgrades that need to happen, etc. So when you actually look at the numbers, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the best financial income. Comparative to, for example, renting, still having some surplus because you haven't overcapitalised with the payments. And then because you're getting an investment return, that overall growth in your wealth could be better than owning the home.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to people when they say, okay, but I'm just paying off someone else's mortgage when I rent?
Yes, you are in effect, but you don't have the risk. You've got the flexibility, and hopefully you've still got surplus cash flow that you're not having to pour into other things. Like I said, that long-term maintenance of the home and upgrades, etc., to do something else with. And I think that's the key. As long as you're doing something else, and it doesn't mean you have to have lots of money. And this leads to the next myth, which we'll get to. It just depends on what you're doing there. But again, what I will say is that every situation is different, right? Because you can buy a home and you have significant market growth during that period of time. And all of a sudden, you feel like you're more wealthy because you've got $500,000 worth of equity. And if you're renting, you're not going to get that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's habitual. Again, all these things can be very habitual. It's the strategies that you build around it that can make a huge difference as well too. So, if you're renting and you don't have those other overheads like your maintenance and your property expenses and your interest and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are you actually taking all of that money that you otherwise would be spending on it and then putting that somewhere else, putting that to cash, putting that to investments, longer term investments like shares, putting that somewhere else so it's working heavily for you, or building up for your later deposit, or build, wherever that's going, are you making the most use of it? And if the answer is no, that's a lot of the times where we see people fall down because I'm renting, but I'm actually just not making use of what I otherwise would be paying if I was buying property. So it's not a fair comparison anymore.
Yeah. But do you know what those people are going to come back with?
What's that?
Myth number 4. I need a high income to build this wealth.
It's like you kind of read my mind on this one.
I did.
I like these. We can see who came up with the myths for today's session.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that these are inevitable ones. I think, we know what these myths are and we hear about them time and time again. But there is a consensus again that to build wealth, you need to actually have high income or high surplus. And it's absolutely just not the case. So coming back to the original commentary that we made around it's behavioural, it's, your emotions around money, all of those things. This is certainly one of them because in reality, wealth is actually built on consistency. So, discipline with your money, the habits of how you use the money that you do have, and then also giving it time. So for example, you could have somebody that earns $80,000 a year and they may invest regularly, and that could just be $50 a week or whatever that may be. But then you've got somebody else who earns $150,000 a year and spends absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Because they're maintaining a lifestyle.
Yes.
So, it doesn't have to be huge amounts. You don't have to have a high income. It's, are you looking at your budget? Is there ways that you could improve that, and just making sure that you're allocating small portions of money to something? Yeah.
And I think we get caught in the keeping up with the Joneses trap, don't we? It's very easy to say in climates where inflation's running higher, and we're going at the moment we're going through a bit of a fuel hike and all of these kinds of things. It's easy to get caught up in that hype too, where everybody's saying, everything's so expensive, and therefore I'm going, everything's so expensive. I should, I am just spending out all of my income. But there's always ways. It's just a matter of how much we want to get involved realistically with our own cash flow and decide what I am going to spend money on and the things that I have to spend money on versus what I want to be able to do with a surplus, and the more that we can actually pin that down to, like we've spoken about time and time again, Kels, those goals, the more I can pin why I should save anything to a goal for today, for 2 weeks' time, for 2 months' time, for 2 years' time, the more likely it is that I'm going to end up in a situation where I go, actually, I'm controlling my own destiny here, and I don't need a $300,000 a year paying job to achieve the things I want to achieve. I just need to make small tweaks now and start earlier, right?
And there might be a trade-off, in some people's situation there very well could be a trade-off for a period of time, maybe you're not having a $15,000 holiday every year, because you've got the bigger picture of things that you want to achieve and you use that money in a different way.
Yes.
Or maybe it's every other year, but there very well could be a trade-off.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they might be one of those ones that was hoarding cash anyway, and they need to be having those $15,000 a year holidays.
Absolutely. Okay, so myth number 5, which is the belief that you can just start later.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Often, if you think about people in their I want to say 20s, 30s, and 40s, there's this. It's really difficult to see yourself in the future, right? Yeah. So you're not really necessarily thinking about your 60-year-old self. Yeah. So you can kind of go, well, I know at the minute, I've got kids, they're bloody expensive. I've got my mortgage, that's really expensive. So when all of these things reduce or disappear, that's when I can start doing it. Yeah.
There's actually been interesting studies done in that exact area that people cannot see themselves in the future. They can't because whatever, and that's at all ages. And so there's something to be said about this idea of if I can't see myself there, I could be doing things to try and actively, help me get into the headspace to make that the case, because otherwise it just feels like doing nothing is the better situation.
Yeah.
And it might be as simple as kind of going like, if I was my future self now, what life lessons would I be writing for me? You know, if I'm now 36 years of age, project myself to 46, what would my 46-year-old self be saying as life lessons to me now?
Yeah.
And particularly around the disciplined areas for investing, saving money, cash flow, all of that, listing those down, and you'd be surprised how much easier it is for people to actually go, there are some real things that I know I should be doing, but my subconscious is burying them because I can't think of how that would help me down the track versus the known trade-off for right now and how that might make things a little harder for me now.
Absolutely. And the real reality of this myth is that time is your biggest advantage. So, that there is a difference between starting at 25 versus 35.
Yeah.
And again, starting at 35 versus 45.
Yeah.
So, the earlier that you can start doing something will make a huge difference. So,
and they don't have to be huge changes, right? It's actually easier to do it little by little and be constantly involved in them, and have those family meetings, have those roundtable meetings, have those husband and wife meetings, whatever it is, where you're sitting down regularly and going, we wanted to make these little incremental changes, and one of them was just starting now. And so if starting now was we're putting $20 a week aside into something for our future.
But it does come down to little things like that. It's literally you can both sit there and know in your mind, this is what we want to do. We know we should be doing this.
Yeah.
But it's the action part.
Yeah, just making a start and make it really small. And it's easy to make something small bigger. It's harder to take the first step. So, if you want to get there and you go, oh, I'd love to take $20,000 a year holidays, but I don't have $20,000 a year now. What do you have now? Just start with that.
Yep.
Start with putting that aside, and then in a month's time, in 2 months' time, whatever the regular stages that you meet together and you have your little conversations about this, or if you're single, that you set aside a time aside for yourself to look at it. Go, okay, that was $100 a month. I'm going to make it $120 a month because I could do that. And it's easier and easier. And then all of a sudden,
it's a new habit.
Yeah, my new habit is I saved this money, or my new habit is I've invested. I've started that approach, and I started small, and now I'm ready to get a little bit bigger with this. Or those habits, they've got to start somewhere, and the first step doesn't need to be the big step.
Exactly right. And can I end this one on one of our favourite quotes, which is time in the market beats timing the market.
Oh, I love that one.
Okay.
Yes, I do love that one. It is truth.
Want to invest your hard-earned money but don't know where to start? Allman Partners True Wealth presents AP Direct Invest, your online self-directed investment solution. Choose from 6 low-cost exchange-traded fund portfolios, including 2 socially responsible options. To manage your own investment experience, visit allman.com.au/AP Direct Invest and start your investment journey today. AP Direct Invest, your investment solution. Any financial product advice is general advice only and may not be appropriate for you. Always read the PDS.
Okay, so myth number 6. I think we all fall guilty to this one. I deserve to treat myself.
I deserve to treat myself.
How many
every
times?
day, Kels.
How many times have you probably known I shouldn't really be spending this money because I do have other plans, but you feel like you deserved it. I've been working hard.
Are you staring into my eyes about this one because I spend too much of
now.
ice on
You know
iced
you
tea?
do this.
Todd, if you're listening, I know I buy too many iced teas. This is my I deserve to treat myself moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is, we all fall foul to this. It's emotional spending, and it can become a habit. And all of those small purchases where you go, oh, just a small treat to myself, can actually add up quite massively over time.
And actually, if we go back to what I was just talking about in our last one, when you start out small, those small little I deserve to treat myself become much bigger I deserve to treat myself. And then all of a sudden we might be spending $20,000 a year on things that you just didn't want to be, but now it's normal.
No, it's a new habit and now you need it.
And I guess it's not saying that you can't reward yourself though, because we can't delay everything. We don't want to do nothing now and only live for the future. No. It's just doing it more responsibly.
Yeah, have some control around it. So have some measures around it. Don't
what
just...
is control? What does that look like?
What does it look like? Well, actually, very, very easy. And I feel like, you've got to allocate yourself some fun money. Yeah. So you are still treating yourself, but, have a budget.
Yeah, okay.
So put
the upper cap on it.
Put a cap on it over a certain period of time and put some money aside for it every time you get paid.
Okay. So I'm allowed. Yeah.
You're allowed.
I'm allowed
iced tea.
$20 a week, but if I'm spending $100 a week, there's an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's uncontrolled. Yeah. And also there is other ways that you can shift your focus to self-care. You know, really, if you're impulse spending because you deserve it to feel better, it's that you're trying to kind of fill a void, do some sort of self-care. You know, you're probably tired or feeling overworked or whatever that may be. That's why you're doing it. But there's ways to look after yourself that's free too.
Yeah.
So
True.
whatever
That's
you're into, maybe have a think about what that could look like. And that could just be getting some quiet time reading a book one afternoon.
Or change of habits again too. So instead of buying the iced teas, making the iced teas.
Or that.
You know, the change. It's
be careful what you wish for to know.
I know, I'm picking on myself here, but I mean, so I've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if we can change things out, you know, not completely remove. But what can I change this for? You're exactly right. Can I change this for something that's that doesn't cost me money, or can I change this for something that costs me less money, or for something that I get more enjoyment out of in a different way? Or yeah,
and just being intentional. I think that's a big one too. Actually being intentional around why you're purchasing something. Like, if I buy this, am I going to be any happier? Did I really need this?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
How many dresses do you need?
That's not
Lots.
fair.
Okay, so that's really the big myths that we wanted to cover off on today. And you know, the big truth is that most financial struggles, as you mentioned, aren't because of a lack of money. It's by your beliefs, or inaction, or fear, or general poor decisions and habits that are kind of accumulated over time. So, you know, I guess it's good to reflect on, well, why do we believe these myths? Why do we do the things that we do? And quite often it's passed down from family. So you often inherit the money habits of your family. I suppose it could go the opposite way too.
That's right. You could see things as you're growing up and not realize until you're older that you've actually tried to avoid them. And so your beliefs are founded on the anti version of that, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, if you let's say, for example, you had a parent that was so frugal that it was almost debilitating. It could be that when you start earning an income that you go, I don't want to live like that. It was so suppressing, and now I'm just going to spend and spend because that's how I view money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or it could be because you fear losing it. So if you didn't have it, you could be fear of losing it, which is why you hoard cash and you don't want to take the believed risky behaviour of investing. That could be another reason. Quite often it's a lack of financial education. We're not taught this stuff at school.
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, this is why we're here. This is why we're talking about it, isn't it? It's education in finance is critically important. It's something that we really don't get as a society.
Yeah. But what we do get as a society is what's in the news, in the media, on socials, all of those sorts of things, is, you know, misinformation or buying into consumerism and all of those things.
And I mean,
keeping up with the Joneses.
And these days, how much of your decision making? So I think a big part of this can be how much of your decision making was actually you. But particularly around social media and particularly around technology and the way that it works and the way that the algorithms send things to you these days. You know, I might come out of this and actually have adverts for iced tea.
You probably will.
And dresses. And so, you know, there's a lot of subconscious plants that are put in there when we are looking at different things online or we're talking about different things, you know. And so realistically, I think you're exactly right in that. What are my beliefs? Where are the ideas coming from in terms of where my spending habits are, how I invest money, all of those things? And are they coming from reliable sources? Are they coming from a place that is based on what I'm trying to achieve for me for the long term and not instantaneous pleasure now? And I think if we can get back in touch with our true selves and our true values around money and the goals that we're trying to achieve, it makes it that little bit easier to go, hang on a second, this is not my idea, or this is an idea that I haven't thought through very well yet, or that I might need to just check in with a little bit further. And sometimes having that person to bounce that off, whether it is a partner, whether it is a financial advisor, whether it is, you know, whoever, a friend that you speak about these things well with, whoever that person is, or multiple people, can be helpful as well too.
Yeah. Definitely, absolutely. So I can only encourage everyone that's listening to ask yourself a couple of questions. You know, am I only saving, or am I saving too much and not investing and thinking about the future? I'm not taking action. There's things that I know I could do and should be doing, but out of fear or for whatever reason, not taking action, you know, and then go, okay, can I allocate myself time this weekend or whatever it may be to really put together a plan and do something? Not just the idea, actually do it.
Make it happen.
Start
now, 21 days, and we'll be on our way.
That's it. So thank you very much for listening today. We, as always, are really interested to hear your feedback. What money myth do you have, and what have you believed the longest? And, you know, have you learned anything from what we spoke about today? So please make sure that you share that with us, share our episode, leave a review, and give us all the feedback, and hopefully we'll see you again on the next podcast.
I'm off to get my iced tea now.
And my dress.
All right. See you next time on Wealth Experience. The opinions of the presenters are objectively ascertainable and are not intended to be financial product or personal advice.